Hello YouTube. It is I, Hinton T85, and with an update about a project that I talked about, the Underbelly project. Um, Last time I did this, I was talking about South 4th Street Station and how it was accessible. As of recently, I've been there about 3 weeks ago, and it is sealed off. Not completely. You can still see the passageway at the north end of the southbound platform, IND train, the Broadway station. It is gated over. Um, I guess they must have done it from the time I was there, the last time, and recently. Uh, so you can still access the station by walking. By walking, let's see, through the passageway still. If you wanna get there, climb the gate. That's the best way I can think of. Climb the gate, about this small for your head to fit, at the north end of the northbound platform. Uh, the door is sealed over, so that's out of the question. And back on the southbound platform at the north end, the door can still open, but is gated up. There's a fence there you cannot get through. I would like to talk about the second system stations. South 4th Street is one of them. I like to bring up the four locations that I brought up before. Houston Street, 2nd Avenue, Essex Street, East Broadway, South 4th Street, and Utica Avenue, the Fulton Street line. At 2nd Avenue and Houston Street, which is the F line, the patches of service, the two inner trackways were never completed. Also at the, how can I say, at the west end of the station is a high ceiling space for a station. Look at the ceiling at the west end of the station, and you will see that there could have been a station with side platforms. Also, there are about 6 staircases missing from 2nd Avenue station. At East Broadway, still on the F line, the patches of service was never completed. Part of a station for 2 tracks and 2 side platforms, never completed. Look at the ceiling from the open platform and the mezzanine at the north end. It would reveal the outline for the 2nd Avenue subway, which would have crossed there, which was also part of the second IND system. South 4th Street, part of the station, 6 tracks with 4 island platforms. The G train to Broadway. You just gotta look for traces of a staircase going up, and at the north end of the station, it's a gate fence sealed up, but you can still see the passageway. Finally, at Fulton Street, take the A and C trains to Utica Avenue. Look up at the ceiling for the open platforms, and at the mezzanine level on each side of the station are 2 doors. And if you go through there, you would reveal the hidden mezzanine station within the station. I'm going to talk about the operation and construction of the second IND system. The newly constituted Board of Transportation planned. The newly constituted Board of Transportation of the City of New York planned a new system of subway routes in 1924 to be operated independently of the existing dual system that was run by the BMT and IRT companies. It became known as the Independent Subway on opening of the first portion in 1932, later on as the IND division. A further set of tracks known as the second system was optimistically announced in the fall of 1929, weeks before the stock market crashed, and there was to make further public financing impossible. It's late at night, forgive me. Within a few years, only federal WPA dollars and federal state funds were available. Funding of the first system Only parts of the second system were actually constructed. Yeah, some small parts of the second system were actually constructed, namely 4 places, as I already named, where the routes crossed over other routes. There was to be a station at the 4 locations connecting with the station that was constructed and opened. No more than the shell of the second system was built at these points, and even only the portion of the station length was in the construction limits. The idea was to provide the necessary columns and allow clearance um, for the stairs and openings that would be needed when the second system stations were built, but they were never completed. In the station shells, the finished concrete work normally seen on the open stations and platforms, and walls were never put in. There are still columns and beams and unfinished concrete that still need to be done. All of this was to be done by the end of the 1930s, but never completed. It's been a long day, sorry. The Second Avenue subway was to cross over a 9D line at East Broadway and the west end of Second Avenue, the F train. There is not even a shell there, but just a large open space visible over the tracks and platform. No part of mezzanine intrudes. The 1931 plan shows 2 tracks with side platforms to be built. A subway from Manhattan to Brooklyn running in Broadway was to cross over the IND line running in Rutgers Street, the F train still. The crossing is near the north end of the station, and the area is part of the existing mezzanine. Near the entrance from East Broadway, the unbuilt line would have had 2 tracks, and the station would have had side platforms. A line of heavy columns marking the center line between the 2 tracks is visible on the mezzanine, with a clear area to each side where the tracks would have been. At each end of the line of columns is a door. A hole in the door on the west side provides a glimpse to a very short stretch of tunnel, and the floor can be seen to be lower at what would have been track level. From below, the crossing is easy to spot because of the lower ceiling. The same subway across the river was to meet more tracks from Houston Street and enter a massive junction station under South 1st Street in Brooklyn and adjoining private property. Originally planned as 4 tracks, it was replaced as 6 tracks, and that was what was partially constructed. To the Broadway station, G train. Anyway, let's see, running. The line was to connect to the Broadway line G train running under Union Avenue. South 4th Street is parallel to the Broadway station, so the station was above the north end of the station. Stairs formerly going up to the unfinished station has been removed, leaving only patchwork floor and tile work at the north end of the mezzanine, which was rather large, is no longer accessible. Finally, I come to Utica Avenue. Let's see. So it was a long day, long night. Still work with me. A branch of the same subway was to run under South 4th Street and under Stuyvesant Avenue to Utica Avenue to Flatbush Avenue, but the lines were never completed. The unbuilt route also cuts through more private property from Stuyvesant to Utica Avenue, which do not quite line up. The angles are not at the crossings are not at right angles. So basically that is it. Hope you enjoyed this update.